in about 5 weeks ago. And there ought to be a premium for that. But if I had to choose between, chasing 100,000 donors or actually providing 100,000 people health care, saving that health care, it's the easiest choice I'd ever make.
There's a flip side to this, too. You looked at this field, an epic field of Democrats, and thought, well, there's a path for me here to get to the White House. Why run for president versus perhaps trying to run for Senate? Something a lot of Democrats wanted you to do. You turn your popularity in that state into a seat in the Senate in Washington.
Yeah. I mean, I chose to run for president because we not only have to beat Donald Trump, but we got to get both this economy and this representative democracy working for us again. I'm the only one in the field that actually won a Trump state. Donald Trump took Montana by 20. I won by 4 in 2016. If we can't win back some of the places that we lost in 2016, in addition to bringing out our base, we're not going to win this election. I've shown even in greatly divided times that government can work. My legislature is 60% Republican. Yet we've been able to do things like expand health care, get dark money out of our elections. And I also think I represent, I'm outside of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. at times has become a place where talking about issues is the replacement for doing it. I've been able to get things done along the way. So I think I can not only win, but bridge some of the divides to get government working. Have great respect for the Senate, and I know that we're going to have a good candidate for Montana Senate, or for the U.S. Senate in 2020. And I'll do everything I can to make sure that her or him gets elected.
You mentioned this phenomenon. You won in a red state that voted overwhelmingly for Trump. So who are these Trump Bullock voters?
Yeah, and look, 25 to 30% of my voters also voted for Donald Trump. And I think that we got to recognize a number of things. Like, for a whole lot of folks, over 40% of Americans right now, if they had an emergency and needed $400, car breaks down or health care, they wouldn't have it. Or if you look at, when I was growing up in the early 70s, 90% of 30-year-olds were doing better than their parents were at age 30. Today, it's only half. So a lot of folks, the economy's not working that well for them. I think the folks that voted for me, first of all, I show up. I don't have the luxury in Montana of just going to those pockets of blue and getting them out. I go all across the state, and I try to listen as much as I talk. I don't compromise my values, but they know I'm going to be fighting for their best interests, even if at the end of the day that they may disagree with me on some of my policy positions.
Let's talk a little bit about foreign policy right now. What would you do if you're in the Oval Office behind that resolute desk to try and bring Iran back from the brink?
Well, and let's actually recognize that we helped bring Iran to that brink. When this administration pulled out of the JCPOA, where Iran said, we will allow nuclear inspectors in, we're not going to take any steps toward short-range or long-range nuclear weapons. This is, in part, the chaos of his own creation. This president's kind of taken this idea of America first to America alone. So what I would do is certainly, we can't give Iran any license to cause troubles, but we also have to say that we can't do this alone. We got to work with our allies and at times our adversaries through diplomatic ways. And that's what we had until fairly recently.
Even under that agreement, they were just months away from creating a nuclear weapon, though.
But they had stopped. And they also had agreed to allowing international inspectors in. So, they've been saying for quite a while now, hey, we're really telling you, if we can't figure out a way to actually keep our economy going, we're going to restart our efforts. So this was one where they had stopped and we're allowing inspectors in. I don't think that the approach of just saying we're going to throw out everything from the past has really helped us too much, but it also shows, this administration in some ways, sort of the misstatements and some of the lies, it's hard for people to really trust and understand what's real and what's not out of this current crisis that we're now seeing. Literally a couple days ago from this airing when, we're actually going to start sending in folks. No, we're not. People don't know what to believe coming out of Washington, D.C. right now, and I think people deserve a lot better.
One of your competitors in this race is calling for the federal licensing of firearms. Are you on board with an idea like that?
I'm not. I think that we need to turn around and make gun safety a public health issue, not necessarily a political issue. And what we've seen over the years is, the NRA, when I was growing up, was a hunting and gun safety organization. Now it's nothing more than a political organization. I'm tired of lowering flags for mass shootings. I'm tired of the fact that my son, when he went to a new school this year, the middle school, at the end of the week, he's like, I asked, what did you learn? He goes, I now know where to go in case there's an active shooter. But there are steps that you could take without taking away people's guns or licensing their guns. Things like universal background checks. Even the majority of Republican gun owners would agree that this would be a good idea. Red flag laws, domestic violence, opportunities. If we could look at it as a health issue, not a political issue, I think that we could take good steps forward.
That's Senator Booker's idea for the licensing there. The first big fight of the Democratic primary broke out between Senator Booker and former Vice President Biden over some remarks that Vice President Biden made about working in the past with these Southern segregationist senators. Some called that insensitive. Where do you stand on this? Biden's asking for an apology. Booker's asking for an apology. Do you have an opinion here? Who should apologize?
I don't. At the end of the day, this is up to voters to sift through it all. And sort of the food fights of the day, I'm not sure help us all that much along the way. But we do have to recognize that everybody's voice needs to be heard. And there are times that, look, we ought to be able to find ways to get Washington, D.C. to work, but not sure always holding up some of the individuals that the vice president held up is the best way to show that we could make Washington work.
Yeah, those Dixiecrat senators are long gone, but part of the conversation that's going on right now in this race is about reparations. What about the idea of the Democratic Party paying reparations based on that membership it had, not just in the Senate, but elsewhere, and it was so intimately involved in suppressing black people's freedoms?
Well, I think the idea of reparations is recognizing that there's been historical injustices and past wrongs and taking steps to remedy those wrongs. And certainly know that the promise of this country hasn't been extended to everyone. And there are both historical and to date, contemporary issues that are holding individuals back. So I think the best way to actually approach this is, we know there are healthcare disparities between African Americans and whites. Let's actually address those healthcare disparities and say, how did we get there? If you're a black family in America, you're making about 58 cents on the dollar for the average white family. Economic issues, housing issues. Address it in that way, from the perspective of saying, what are the historical injustices that still bleed into today, and how can government be a constructive partner in addressing them?
Another big issue right now, climate change. What are you doing in Montana to address the issue of climate change?
Even in my 6 years, we've doubled the wind, we've quadrupled the solar. I'm the chair of the governors nationally of Wind and Solar Coalition. We've built additional opportunities as we look to where we can go in the region with renewable energy. But we have to take action on climate change. We were talking before this. I had 1.3 million acres burned 2 years ago. We need to take immediate steps and durable steps. The IPCC says we have to be carbon neutral by 2050. I think we could get there a lot sooner. Rejoining Paris and actually paying our commitments in there. Not even the auto industry was looking for these fuel efficiency standards to be rolled back. Investing in the technology and opportunities to start bringing down our greenhouse gas immediately and make a long-term plan, and I think we can do more.
You talk about a carbon-free future. Coal isn't everything in Montana, but it is something. How do you protect the workers that you have who work in that industry in your own state?
And I think that's essential. Look, right now financial markets are even making coal-fired generation much less profitable, and plants are closing. Another one was just announced that it was going to be closed in Montana at the end of this year. But even the scientists, like the IPCC, says you can't just shut these off immediately. So we have to figure out both ways to counterbalance some of the greenhouse effects of that, and that's through things like renewables. It's adding my wind and solar. But an important lesson along the way for, I think, Democrats, but for all Americans too, is that you can't leave those communities behind. I mean, I've got folks that have spent their whole life powering America. And as transitions occur, we've got to figure out how that they can have as good a job as their next job as the one that they've had in the past for us.
Is New Hampshire part of your pathway to victory in getting to the White House?
I'm happy to be here in New Hampshire. It absolutely is. You know, it's always been traditionally the early states sort of shift out this big field into a much smaller field. I think that though we're a little bit larger geographically than New Hampshire, I think you could fit 15 New Hampshires in the state of Montana. Sort of the folks of sometimes a little bit of skepticism of government, you know, kind of not a libertarian that really cares about their neighbor, that wants to make sure to be able to hold government accountable. There's some of the values of folks in New Hampshire that are a lot like those in Montana.
All right, Governor Bullock, thanks for
Sure appreciate
joining
you
us.
having me here.
We'll see you on the trail.